Thank you. Andrei Korolov, as usual, got on his bus, which Lubya called a wreck. All because he found it in a junkyard a few years ago. It was rusty and windowless, but Andrei thought his skill would be enough to fix the wreck. Surprisingly, the insides of the bus were in perfect condition. He spent a month making repairs and has been a driver on Route 6 for 2 years now. This morning he started the bus again, tapped the dashboard and said, "Well, wreck, don't let it down." He enjoyed interacting with the bus as if it were alive. He turned the key and set off on his usual route. Passing the train depot, his bus suddenly slowed down. It's never happened before. Andrei pressed the gas, but the wreck didn't move. He cursed and pressed the pedal once more. It wasn't enough for the bus to break down at the beginning of the workday. But then the motor hummed again, and they moved off. Andrei exhaled. A couple of kilometers later, a steam locomotive whistle sounded and the bus froze in place again. The seatbelt then pulled out on its own and slipped over the driver's body. The man was speechless with surprise. The bus shuddered and suddenly soared upward like a binnacle. Andrei cried out in horror. He pinched himself and slapped his cheeks, but it wasn't a dream. His wreck flew like a huge beetle over the fields, as if searching for something. Suddenly, a red train showed up in the distance. The bus lapped up the speed and tore forward. In a matter of seconds, he caught up, became on the sides. Long legs separated from it, and, descending, the wreck seized one of the wagons with them and began to lift it up. But that one was heavy, and it was impossible to tear it off the rails. A tunnel appeared ahead. The train rushed there at breakneck speed. Andrew realized that they were about to hit the wall because the tunnel was very narrow. He shouted, "It's a wreck. We're about to hit the wall," but it was too late. There was an impact that flattened the cab of the bus, and it collapsed onto its side. Andrei opened his eyes. There was something soft in front of his face that looked like fluff. He pushed it away from him with his hands, kicked the door open, and made his way outside. Even though the impact was of incredible force, he wasn't hurt because the airbag inside deployed. Or rather, it's analog. The wreck itself inflated something inside itself and thus saved the driver's life. Andrei looked at the bus. It was no longer reparable. Huge wings dangled like rags. "Wreck, wreck, so you're not a bus, you're a monster?" he asked. He made a pitiful klaxon sound in agreement. Then the scraping of metal was heard, and the cabin began to straighten. Within a minute, the monster was as good as new. Only the door was lying aside. Andrei picked it up, leaned it against the cabin, and it literally stuck to the place. Monster honked. Andrew jumped in, and they soared upward again, flying very high this time. The land was visible for many kilometers. In the distance it showed, there was a train that was rushing at full steam to somewhere. The bus immediately tore toward him, turned his windshield toward him, and stood on the tracks. The train has slowed. The first wagon immediately turned into the head of an eater with a huge mouth. The windshield disappeared, and the train spit a green slime that got on the cab of the wreck and began to corrode it. The seatbelt unbuckled, the door opened and threw Andre out into the street. Now he was watching everything from the sidelines. His bus opened its mouth and green smoke billowed from it, to the point where you couldn't see anything. And when it dissipated, Andrew saw that the wreck was standing on the train and the train was trying to shake it off. The back of the bus suddenly had a sharp sting like a giant bee. The bus lifted him up and nabbed him. Into the roof of the train, a wild roar was created. The red devourer's jaws parted. From there, the machinist's tongue flew out and upward like a fireman's hose. On his faceless face, his mouth suddenly opened, and from there a powerful jet of green slime spurted out, which, hitting the cab of the bus, ate holes in it. The wreck spread its wings to take off, but acid flew on them as well. One fender's completely corroded. Then the train shuddered with its whole body. Shocks of electricity ran along the cars. A bang sounded afterward, and the bus jumped up and collapsed onto the tracks in front of the red train. Andrew ran to help, but the machinist's tongue stuck out and opened his mouth in an intimidating manner. It could have spewed acid again. The driver backed away, Giridal raised his head and brought it down on the bus. Then another and another and another. The wreck was flattened like a tin can. The next blow could have taken his life. But then the bus honked its horn. The train froze and emitted a short horn. The bus responded with a drawn-out sound. It looked like they were having a conversation. Whereupon the devourer pulled back. A deal, I guess, Andre thought. The wreck straightened his cabin as best he could. Standing up on his long legs, he then turned to the driver and called out to him for help. With a subtle signal, Andre leisurely approached his monster now, the wreck. "I'll start the engine and get away. Don't worry, I'll fix you up." But no sooner had he finished speaking than the chair catapulted him high into the sky. Andre didn't even realize what had happened. In flight, a train eater's head popped up from somewhere below and swallowed him Samacombe. The monster collapsed onto the tracks, well-fed and satisfied. The bus slowly slid off the track. He lost in this battle for territory today, but managed to survive by paying off a man-eater, which means, when he's strong enough, he'll fight the train again. And he's definitely going to win this time.